Good evening, everybody. Welcome to In the Blue Corner, the Wednesday edition with your host, myself, Joe Luzza, and Mr.
Chris Beach here. Again, good evening, everybody. There's been a tumultuous couple of weeks, the last 2 weeks, and there could be a fair bit to get off the chest this evening, ladies and gents. So buckle up, brace yourself. We're going for a ride this evening. Joe, over to you.
Well, just off air, Beachy. Beachy's warned me. So for those of you who like to watch a bit of fire in the belly, just be ready. Hey, Chris. First of all, before we've got a special guest waiting for us in the green room. So before we bring our special guest in, I'd just like to thank you and Vince for stepping up last week at very short notice. I got called away to a meeting, so I'm sure our viewers enjoyed Golden Tonsils Lochasano and the librarian Chris. I've got more nicknames for Chris than I've had hot dinners this week. He's the solo man, the librarian, Chris the rant. But anyway, our special guest is just getting some makeup done in the back room. He's got the makeup artist happening. So let me introduce to you the active known for all these years, the one and only DJ Rash. How are you, Rash?
I thought you were going to say Vincent, but
no. It's a bit of the old Beatles, the actor known for all these years. One, Billy Fields, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Absolutely.
DJ Rash, welcome.
It's great to be here. Finally back on the show. It's been a while.
Coming to us all the way from the sandpit. And we've even got a viewer coming. Hello, Jacob. How are you, mate? He's back.
G'day, Jacob.
He's black and he's bad. So I thought we'd get Rash on tonight. For those viewers who don't know Rash, I'll let Rash give a little bit of an introduction into his specialty and his area of expertise, or his field of expertise, I guess you'd like to call it, Rash.
Yep.
And it's probably a good time to do it because I was talking to Chris off air, DJ, about 8-2 after round 10, looking good, and all of a sudden the wheels seem to have fallen off. So let us hand over to Rash, and Rash, just give the viewers a little bit of a run through on your area of expertise and what you're seeing is happening with the club. So over to you, Rash.
All right. So area of expertise is, those who don't know, it's called NLP, which stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Neuro meaning the brain, linguistic is language, and programming is the system. So I don't want to bore people, but essentially what it is, it's a mental coach that helps people with either fears, phobias, and getting
dieting, I guess, and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, it can be like that, but it's more about creating peak performance for elite, whether you're an artist, singer, football player, whatever it is, or even a CEO. So that's what I've been doing. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I guess a lot of people will know that lady who works with the Richmond Club, who's on SEN a lot. What's her name?
Emma. Yeah, Dr. Emma Murray.
Yeah, that's it. So that's
Richmond. So, and there's a few people that do that, which mix both like psychology and this. So that's what I do essentially.
Okay.
And I am a certified hypnotist. I do hypnosis.
Oh, sorry, that's later, isn't it?
That's later. But it worked. Every time I say it, you do it.
I know. So Rash, give us a rundown. What do you think is happening at the club? Where do you think players are not falling apart, but what do you think is happening from your knowledge or experience?
Look, it's very hard to understand what's happening when we're not in those four walls. But
yeah, exactly.
But what I do see with the messaging, and for whatever reason, they're not owning up to it. This is what the problem is. It's not actually going. If you listen to Jacob Wiedering last week, if you listen to Harry Mackay was on the couch.
Sam Walsh on SEN.
Sam Walsh. Now, with the pressure, they're starting to go, oh, yeah, we've got to get better. But they didn't take accountability for the Adelaide game. no one was really realizing, and I was saying it like for ages, that they've been out of form since the Sydney Swans game. So, and they come back and they're just been inconsistent. So that's one thing. But I think what's happened is, and it's got to do with mental coaching, in my opinion, is what I'm seeing on the outside. But of course, I don't want to be held but to this. But it looks like they've got complacent and they're okay with going, wow, we won 12 wins. So, and that for me is not elite peak performance. Elite peak performance, even if we had a target and let's say our target was 12 wins, once we get in there, we just change it. We go, right, we're going to go even further. So for me, it doesn't look like they've I don't think the Blues have a coach. They're like a mental coach. But that seems to me, and just listening to the messaging, I think that seems the problem, Joe, to be honest. For me, because I listen to words, different than when you hear words. I listen to what they're actually saying, and at the moment, it doesn't look pretty consistent.
Okay, so from your experience, what do they do mentally to overcome it? I mean, it's all good and well to say, oh, they're not doing it, but what do you think is, if you were there, what would you suggest? What would
if I was there, I would be doing a program, and I'm sure that they don't have a program. So that's the thing. Like a program, that starts in pre-season, Joe.
Yeah.
Right? So program is, and without getting too technical, a bunch of things. What they're trying to reach, I'm sure that they have they've set goals at the start of the year. There's no doubt. Every major organization does that. But the program of what's keeping it consistent, that when this happens, what do we do? And the messaging needs to be really, really simple. And, teaching them about visualization, because visualization is one of the key tools. Are they doing that sort of stuff? If you look at Richmond a few years ago, I don't know if anyone's seen the footage, but you would see that you'd see all the players all lined up, standing up, and just completely quiet and visualizing on the ground in training. That's part of their training.
Yeah.
So it's without getting into too much, details, but they've got a lot of stuff to do, and it starts with the way they speak. So without getting technical, it's like there's a famous saying that says, "Don't be hung by your tongue." What that means is like, "Oh, I'm crap at this. Oh, we're never going to win," right? Then sort of like manifest that. So their talk is not. It's even from the coach. Hey, we're aiming for finals. We're going to do it. We're going full speed ahead. The best way. They've just stuck to processes, which is okay, because usually a good process, good system gets you the outcomes that you need. Yeah, but it's not working at the moment. So,
Rich, in your experience, you're saying let's say we're following a process, right, to reach an outcome, and you're halfway through the season and you're 8-2, and you're thinking, gee, that process is working well, okay, and then the second half of the season, you're following the same process, but you're not getting the same outcome. Sorry.
No, I understand that, but that's like life. Like you have adversity.
Yes, I know.
The question is, how do you deal with that?
That's what I was going to ask you. So, what do you do? Do you
then you come up with new strategies, but keeping the same thing.
Yeah,
but that's the question. And the new strategies obviously is not working.
Yeah. So you don't do this drastic change, do you, or do you just sit back, take a step back, reanalyze what's happening, and then say, okay, this is
never always drastic.
Apart.
If it needs to be, you do it. But usually the pre-planning is set up from the get-go in pre-season. You would have come in, you would have said, right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to create new chapters for the football club. He's spoken about it. I think what's happened is that things have changed. People have worked out how to play against us. We've been okay with the 1 in, 1 out, and in the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, it looks like something's awfully gone wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Chris, do you have anything to add? You've been very quiet there. Chris is this volcano just ready to erupt.
I can tell.
He's got a. You've heard of Rocco's rant on the jumper punch. Well, we're going to have Chris's volcano in a minute. It's going to be spewing lava everywhere.
No.
So
Actually, Joe, I've come up with a better name for that, and it's going to be called Beachy's Blast. But we'll work on that a little bit later.
all right. Okay.
Look, just
Cool.
excuse me. Look, I haven't got anything to worry at the moment because it's interesting just to hear someone talk about this that's actually in the field of this mental coaching. I think it's probably the way to describe it, because as someone that works in a completely different industry, like law and all that, it can be quite different for everybody else as well. So, yeah, look, there's not much I can add to it at this point in time.
Yeah. So, Rash, what else can we do? What's your suggestion? Right? What do you think? From what you're hearing, are you confident in the next couple of weeks, or do you think the boys have? So you think the boys have just lost confidence?
Yeah, I think they've lost their way, and now that the captain is out, so he's appealing.
Yeah.
I really don't see anyone that's going to step up and it was already a monumentous challenge with Cripps in there. So now I still always think that we can always beat Collingwood, but the point is it's not about that. It's just that we've lost our way, and it's evident. You look at the first 8 weeks that they were playing for each other, and I just think that what happens is just like anything. They're a young team, and what happens is that it can be fixed. It's not like it can't be fixed, right? But you know what? It's like a high pressure cooker. When the pressure gets on, you sort of like, I know you've heard that. It's like with golfers or whatever. They go to bad habits because they forget, right? And that's what's sort of happening at the moment. So I'm sure that he's trying to get him back into this thing of what he taught him for the first 10 weeks, but they're just struggling at the moment. And a lot of players are out of form at the same time, which is rare.
Yeah. Do you think that this appealing of Cripps's 2-match ban smacks of desperation? I mean, I spoke to Chris about this off air, and he said, if we've got nothing to lose, it does cost money and it costs time. But to me, I mean, we'll get on to the act itself later on. But to me, this just smells of desperation. Oh, we can't win if we don't have Cripps in the team. It's like they've resigned themselves to, we're going to lose if we don't have him in. To me, it just thinks that he's the centre point, and if we don't have the centre point, it all falls apart.
No, I can see your point of view of that. For me, I actually see it differently. I think that this sort of says that's our guy. We don't believe that it's completely unfair. Mm-hmm. And we're gonna take this all the way. And you remember we did this with Greg Williams like some 20 years ago, right? And they appealed. So you could look at it as we're desperate, but really, I mean, no. I think that they actually, in my opinion, I think the club thinks that it wasn't a reportable. I mean, there wasn't even a free kick. So it's
exactly right.
So it's just sort of like setting a precedent. Also, the money spent well is the captain. It's probably positive to say, hey, listen, we're backing you up all the way. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
He's got a great point there.
Get you in, So anyway, that's the way I see it. So
But let's talk about the act itself, right? Now, I think when we've always been told if your feet leave the ground, you'll get suspended. And that's fair enough. What I didn't like is that Willie Rioli did exactly the same thing in round one. He had no intention of going the ball because his eyes were not on the ball, if you look at the act, and got off. Yet everyone who's gone up after has been reported. Now, I've seen people saying, it's because he's an Aboriginal. And if Patrick Cripps was black, and if Patrick Cripps had played for the West Coast or something. This is what gets the public really irked off about the AFL is their inconsistencies, right? Well, I'll go to Beachy first. Beachy, what do you think?
You're right on. You are absolutely right on, because every time a specific player, I'll use our club for the example, has gone to the tribunal or MRO, they've been given the whack, usually a suspension or whatever. However, and this is what really irks me, more than some would probably think.
Here comes Beachy's blast.
If this was Patrick Dangerfield, Joel Selwood, Nat Fife, Dustin Martin, Josh Kennedy, who's now retired from West Coast, and if they're in contention for, say, the Coleman Medal or the Brownlow Medal more specifically, what do you reckon the AFL would do, gentlemen? What do you reckon they would do? They would
there'd be a fine.
Off.
Yeah,
they would get them off.
I don't think Dangerfield anymore, because I think Dangerfield copped something, earlier this year, or was it last year? And he got reported for a few weeks. Usually, I would say he's a protected species. Say Buddy Franklin in that mix too, but Dangerfield, not as much. Didn't he get reported for 3 weeks on the hit?
Yeah, but I'm just Dangerfield as an example here, Rash, because years gone by, that's what would have happened.
Obvious, protect the species. But
exactly.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. As you did say, Rash, rightly point out, there was no free kick paid. So, and then to make matters worse, if you continue to watch that footage, Cripps gets ragdolled when he doesn't have the ball. So I always thought that that's holding the man.
100%. So I just say my point of that? I don't know if Beach is done. Beach, you done?
Well, you go and I'll pipe up afterwards.
Pipe up, he's revving up. Get him revved up.
Beachy's get ready, ladies and gentlemen. It's starting to murmur. Can you hear the murmurs?
Yeah. I can hear I'm just letting our special guests have a chance to talk.
No, I was just saying that, you've got to also look at Patrick Cripps' record, right? He's not notorious for getting reported. He's a fair player. It was even the commentators were saying that'll go off. So I think it's the same sort of thing. It's about the outcome, which is the complete wrong. This is the way that it's obvious. If Archie is still on the ground, nothing happens, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But because he's got concussed, they go, oh, well, he's got concussed. But each player is different. If that had happened to Cripps, someone did that to Cripps.
But the outcome shouldn't determine the penalty.
Correct.
Right? So that's what's happened.
But it's a contentious thing. So I reckon 2 weeks is very harsh. I reckon we might even win to get it down to 1. But
no. According to the tribunal rules, it's either 2 weeks or 0. It can't be a 1 week. So, I guess watch this space because, not here, but I know the guys at Blue Abroad last night had a live stream about it. But let's hope that he gets off. I personally, I don't think he will. I think the AFL have made their mind up and they'll just go, nah. Let's face it, we're not exactly the love child of the AFL. If it was a GWS player or Gold Coast Suns or one of these expansion teams,
but
Joe, but it's
I'm gonna ask you, do you think Carlton would appeal it again if they didn't think they got a chance? They must think that they've got something. I'm telling you.
But this is
MRO, and then it went to tribunal, and now they're going again one more. They must be thinking something.
But this is what gets me, Rash. To me, it's sort of smelling of desperation. But look, I guess as Chris rightly pointed out before the show started, you got nothing to lose, right? At best, he gets off. People, if you want to have a say, please go through. There's no stupid comments. I'm happy to put up anything. Gina's had a say there, But, I've seen, You know what hurts more? Takes a bit. It took him on a big hit on a guy to respond in where Weeders got hit. None of our players went in the bat. I've been saying this. Remember when I think it was last year, and I can't remember who we were playing, and it was down the forward line, and there was Harry McKay and Sam Walsh and their opponents, and Sam Walsh got decked basically behind play. And Harry McKay didn't even go and stand up for him. Didn't even help him up. Didn't even say what happened. He just ran off. Mate, you can see your player on the ground and the ball's 100 metres away. You don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to work out what's happened. He turned around, saw him on the ground, and ran. You watch it. I've watched it a million times. He may not have seen the action, but he ran up with his hand there. This is the problem. I'll tell you what it is. This is what it smells of, Rash. They don't play for each other, right? The first 8
they've been playing like a team anyway for the last how many weeks? It's only on
exactly
brilliance.
Exactly.
I think Beachy wants to make a comment.
Go! Come on, Beachy. The murmur.
Here we go, man. I mean, look. You guys are probably making probably great points. I mean, the last few weeks we haven't been playing together, and like I said last week, if you didn't hear it, I'll say it again. I actually flew over to Adelaide with expectation of us knocking off Adelaide. Now that was actually the longest 2 hours of my life because I was listening to up and about Adelaide Crows supporters in their own state, and here I am thinking they're probably going to get a bit feral here, which they almost did. It's look, I want to say something else to that, but we'll save it for later. But yeah, it's coming, guys. Don't worry, it's coming.
No, you can say what you wanted to say, Chris. Come on.
Well, gentlemen, guys, I think it's, and everyone in chat, I think it's pretty obvious. Everyone would have watched the game on Saturday when we played Adelaide in Adelaide. And if you were living under a rock, there was a Adelaide Crows fan for the female variety to call Adam Sard a terrorist. I'm kind of unhappy with how that was handled by stadium management and the South Australian Police. It should have been handled a lot better than what it was handled. Security should have booted the girl out. Yet they gave her a talking to and they were allowed to get back to her seat. I'm sorry, but if this was one of our fans in that stadium there, then one of us would be getting fucking kicked out straight away because that's how they would play it. They were trying to protect their own fucking people, and I was getting pretty sick of it once I found out what had happened.
The Beachy police would have been there, wouldn't he? Solo Man has spoken.
He's pumped up. He's pumped up.
Well, he doesn't. He's a very fair man, is our Chris Beach.
But I want to understand, because you've gone there, and I understand that I reckon it was handled horribly. But tell me about the morale of the players. Is that are we just talking about separate, or because we're talking about how we're not sticking up for each other?
Well, again, I guess it even falls into it. I mean, I don't know if any of the players heard it, to be honest. But,
there's not much they can do anyway about it. I mean,
Well, Adam Goods pointed the lady out.
Yep, thank you. That's exactly right. Adam Goods literally stopped.
He stopped and pointed at her.
Said to security, this girl's called me an ape. I want her kicked out.
And I mean, Gina's right here. I think it all ties into one. No one goes in and helps. Cripps got ragdolled. No one went and helped him. His jumper got ripped over there, all just sitting there going, "Oh, that's good." This has been the problem at our club, I think, for the last 3 or 4 years, and it's like a cancer. And if Michael Voss doesn't do something about it, I think it'll be his undoing as well. Is that we rely on too few players to do everything. Right?
Individual brilliance.
Yeah, that's it. If Cripper doesn't go in and get the ball, well, how am I going to I'll just stay outside here and you can feed it to me. I know you need inside players. But guess what, guys? Cripps may not be there for the next 2 weeks. And Matt Kennedy, Bam Bam, is still got a broken jaw and won't be there. Who's going to go in and get the ball? Zach Fisher?
There's no Hewitt either.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Who's going to go in and get the hard ball? I don't see any of the others. They will stand out there with their hands up going, oh, give it to me, give it to me. I know you need those players, but you also need players to go in and get the ball. No one is prepared to put their head over the ball and get hit. They all want to stand on the outside and do the acts of brilliance and get fantasy votes. Yeah, that's right. Not Paddy Down, not Lockie O'Brien. I hear all these people, oh, play this guy, play that guy. Why don't we put Stocker in the middle? We recruit him as a midfielder. Oh, well, maybe we should play him at full back or back pocket to give him some experience.
It's easy to say, but I think the way, if you look at the reason why he's in the back pocket is probably got to do with his tank, and that's the problem, because he's hard, he can go in, etc. But it's his tank. Yeah,
but Rash, I get the tank. He's been there 2 or 3 years, right? That's what the fucking interchange is for, not for when someone kicks a goal and runs off to have a rest. You have a look. They get a goal and they sprint 1,000,000 miles an hour to get off the ground. Well, why? To me, you're full of adrenaline. If you got one goal, you'd want to get a second or a third or a fourth. Oh, no, not in AFL. You've got to sprint off the ground and bring someone else. Yeah,
I don't know if we mentioned it already, but I think it might be, have you noticed that every player that's come back from injury hasn't been playing well straight away? Like Wiedering, telling you, since he's been back, the guy we're talking all Australian at the start of the year. Now it's like, it's nothing compared to what he was. Pitternet, do you think there's something wrong perhaps with our guru fitness guy?
No, I don't think there is, because if that was the case, then we would have bombed out of games a lot earlier in the season, and we wouldn't be where we are now. That's just my view.
Okay. I'm just putting the question out there.
No, it's a fair question to ask. It's my opinion that I think no. Joe?
Do you know what gets me is that we have all these players that get injured and then we bring them back and they get re-injured. Like, look at Jack Martin. That guy's either a marshmallow or jinxed. I haven't worked that out. And, for someone who gets paid $900,000 a year, who just roams around like he looks like a cow in the paddock grazing. Every now and then I better do something here. Sort of half put his hand up.
He's a tough player too. He is. He's tough. You don't think he's tough?
No.
Mate, you watch him when he plays. He's not weak. He's a strong guy. So I don't know. I like him. I just think he's injury prone. I like McGovern, but he's injury prone.
Hang on, here we go. Send Martin to the glue factory. and Beachy, I got a question for you. Are we getting drunk on Solo?
The answer is no. I had a can with dinner. This is my second can.
For those of you that don't know Christopher Beach and Rash do not let alcohol pass those lips. Unlike myself, who is sitting here with a hangover from last night at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I went out with Edge last night, Rash.
I've seen a video.
We had a few too many. Hang on, here's a comment from Lana. Jack Martin gives you 1.5 quarters if you're lucky. Either goes missing or gets injured. Yeah, I found him in a packet of Pascal's marshmallows the other day. It had Jack Martin written on it. Can't remember if it was a white one or a pink one. But anyway, I put it in my hot chocolate. So we're getting off the topic here a bit. Yeah, look, I don't know. I'm really worried that for a team that was 8-2 that we are now at round 22, and we're relying on
22.
other teams to make sure that we get in. Because to be honest, I can't see us winning either of the last two games.
No
I really
chance.
can't.
No chance.
Not if we're playing the way we are. Brandon's got a question for you. We need to reset the culture by importing leadership and premiership experience. Rash, you're probably a bit better in sort of commenting on this.
I would agree on getting a Luke Hodge type, one of them at least, just to be there, one or two, because
Who would it be then?
they've been there, they've done the success, they know what it tastes like. These kids, they got no clue, man.
To play DJ or to just coach them?
No, I'm talking about the play, like recruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a la Luke Hodge, virtual Sam. What's his name? Hawks guy. Sam Mitchell.
Sam Mitchell.
Yeah.
Okay.
They did that with West Coast. West Coast won a flag. Hodge helped them. Progress. I mean, they were a basket case same time as ours. They're miles ahead.
I guess so. Just breaking in there, as you well know, the show on this budget exceeds no boundaries, and we've got millions of dollars to splash. Hence why we've brought DJ Rash on. But we've really got the checkbook out now. We've got our answer to Bert Newton.
Where's the check in the mail?
It's in the mail. It's in the mail.
Yeah,
Vince,
well, it hasn't arrived all year. It hasn't arrived.
Vince, good evening. How are you tonight?
Good evening, guys. It's great to be with you. Thanks for asking me to come on. And yes, it's been a rough couple of weeks, hasn't it? Hey, good to see you, Rash. By the way, over there in the sand pit.
We look like the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, we do. Actually, we only need about 5 more, and we'll have 9 squares done.
Who's got the dog? I don't have a dog.
Don't worry about the dog. We just need a maid. We need Alice.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say something we didn't mention in the show, if I may. Some respect for a Blue supporter that recently passed away.
Yes, the great Olivia Newton-John.
I am too.
I can't believe you haven't mentioned it yet. I mean, the beautiful Olivia sang at the 1986 grand final. She was 1 year early. She was 1 year early. She should have sung in the 87 one instead, but she looked resplendent in white and blue that day. And that was the best part about that grand final for me, because nothing else about it was really memorable. But God rest her soul. She's a beautiful soul.
Like, was she like a avid Carlton supporter or not really?
When she was in
Melbourne, I don't think she went every week, if you know what I mean. But no, she was declared. She declared herself a Carlton supporter, absolutely. But how many games did she go to, or did she follow the side every week? I have my doubts. But certainly when she was in Australia and when she was, in any sort of football circles, no, she'd declare herself a Carlton supporter. So we can consider ourselves very fortunate in that respect.
Yes, we can.
Yes. I fell in love with her in Greece when she came out in those black pants.
We all did, Joe.
Well, there was another group that, funnily enough, back in, I know we're sort of digressing here, but when Olivia came forth in that Eurovision Song Contest back in 1974, the winners were ABBA, and they've never forgotten her, and they've always had a close bond throughout the years. And that's nearly 50 years of association, and even the members of ABBA have expressed their deep condolences about the passing of Olivia. But ABBA themselves are Carlton supporters, so let's not forget that.
They are.
Hey, we're gonna talk about
all the best people in the world are, Joe.
Yeah, like Tony Barber.
Yes, good old Tony, yeah.
We're going to talk about some possible ins and outs. I don't know if you want to stick around, Rash, but I just want to say...
Of course he does. Why wouldn't you want to stick around?
Hang on.
Come on, Rash, you're going to hang around, aren't you? We've only got another 20 minutes to go.
All right, go ahead, Joe. Let Joe speak. Let's go.
No Plowman, no Carlton. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Well, I'll say this much.
He'll be raced back in.
I think dropping Plowman and Pitnet last week was a mistake. And Oscar McDonald to me was by far and away the most influential player on the ground.
Who?
Oscar McDonald.
You mean Oscar McInerney?
Sorry, not Oscar McDonald. What am I talking about? That's our Oscar. Oscar McInerney. Yeah. Thank you, Chris. I had a bit of brain fade there.
No problem.
Oscar McInerney. Sorry, the ruckman for Brisbane. I mean, how many times did he just take the ball out of the ruck like Tom DeConnie wasn't even there and just kicked it forward for them or hand passed it to one of his rovers? And Lockie Neal had a field day, mainly because of the influence of Oscar McInerney.
Why don't we have a tagger anymore? I don't understand.
No clubs have taggers anymore.
Well,
I wouldn't say that.
Ed Curnow won't play again this year.
No. I think Ed Curnow might just retire before the Collingwood game. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if he announces his retirement this week.
Sorry, Vince. Just a comment.
Oscar McDonald has already been sent to the mortadella factory.
Well, we've got Jack Martin.
Brandon. What can I say?
Jack Martin's at the glue factory.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's pretty expensive glue. It costs us about $800,000 a year. That glue.
There you go. So Brandon sent Martin to the glue factory.
Anyone else, Brandon?
They sent Oscar
McDonald, Jack Martin. What about Zach Williams? You want to send him as well?
Apparently, we'll go through the injury list in a minute, but Zach Williams is scheduled to return round 23. Well, we'd be stupid enough to play an unfit player.
No, you wouldn't do it. He's done. That's just selling hope.
I have my doubts. And even if he is going to come back, you got to give him 1 or 2 games in the VFL. Seriously. I mean,
and there ain't many games
to come straight back to the full pace. If you take someone who's had calf or Achilles injuries and put them straight back into senior football without any sort of a run in the VFL, well, I just think you're asking for trouble.
Can I ask you, because you were talking about Pitnet and Plowman as the bad, because I get it with Plowman, because he would have tagged Cameron, and then we lost out with Saad running off half back. I get that.
We did. Saad was isolated down at full back with Cameron, really. Well, they took Saad right out of the play.
That's chess, so that's... But Pitnet, they played him the week before.
Yep.
Now, either you're ready or not ready. And then they said manage, or did he get sick?
Yeah. Excuse me. Well, what does manage mean after one game? Manage what? Manage to leave him alone?
TDK, if anything, should be getting a rest.
He's the one that should have been managed. He's the one that needed the rest, not Pitnet. Pitnet needs work.
And not
Pitnet needs to be played.
Yeah.
I think there's been a few very weird selection decisions, don't you reckon, Rash, in the last couple of weeks?
No, it's weird. Doesn't make sense.
I agree.
I was feeling hate this week too. But anyway, maybe, Joe, we can get started on who we think is going to be in and the injuries.
Well, let me read the injury list. I went through it with Mr. Beach before the show, but I'll go through it with you guys.
Okay.
Where is it? I'll probably... Chris, do you want to read out? I can't find it now.
Yep. So 1 second, I've got it here. The Blues have to find a replacement for captain. Yep. With both Kennedy out with a jaw. George Hewitt back still. Lockie, Fogarty, and Jack Carroll are possibly to come into the frame. That would enable Jack Nunes, Joe's favourite player in the whole world, to play on the wing.
Sorry, guys. 1 second. I'm going to go out.
Go for it. So, and this would hand more midfield time to Will Setterfield. Elsewhere, Corey Durden should return and could replace the hobbled Jack Martin after he hurt his calf. Mark Pitnet would also be considered either for TDK or Jack Silvani. Now, I'm sorry, but if you drop Jack Silvani again, you are shooting yourself in the foot for the season.
Yeah.
It could happen. It could happen, Beachy, because he didn't exactly have his most influential game last week. I think he only probably got about 10 possessions at best, I think.
Who's that? Vince?
Jack Silvani. I don't think he had much influence on the game at all.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether Voss will double down and drop him again. Would it surprise you if he did that?
No.
Nothing, Vince. Nothing surprises me at this stage of the season. I mean,
what about Stocker? Do you think Stocker could come back straight into the team? Seeing our midfield is... Let's just assume for a second that Cripps is out. Okay, I know that they're going to appeal, but let's just assume that he's out, because I personally think there are no tangible grounds to be appealing anyway. It's not like they got the law wrong, or it's not like the penalty was, manifestly unjust, or whatever the wording is. I just don't see what the grounds are. I really don't, to appeal. To me, it's just like, well, we don't agree with your decision and we want to have another go. But that's not going to get you off on the appeal. You really have to identify something that the previous judiciary has got wrong. That's what you have to effectively do when you appeal something. So, to me, it's just going to be money down the drain. I can't see how they can get him off. But anyway, unless there's new evidence that comes to light, that's the only other thing that might help you.
Before you came onto the show, we spoke about it. That, and my viewpoint is it just smells of desperation. They think that, unless we have our number one player in the team and our captain, we got no chance of winning.
Yeah.
So, and as Chris rightly pointed out, it must be, there's nothing to lose except some cash, except money. The new hierarchy have got plenty of money to throw around.
Yeah, so good luck finding out from the club how much money they spent on this case. Because I wouldn't be holding my breath. They're not going to be forthcoming with letting the members know how much of their money they've actually spent on this. But anyway, I think we should just assume that Cripps is out. Are there any other forced outs, Chris, that you can think of, or is it just Cripps?
Martin?
Well,
I don't think
Martin is actually expected to be available, according to the injury report. He was subbed out of the game. He was subbed out of the game with calf tightness as a precaution, but is expected to be available this week. So he may very well play.
Well, I might send Lorena Bobbitt round to his house and do a Nancy Kerrigan on his knee.
Kick him in the shins. Josh Honey's another one. Josh Honey's another one that may need another week and be available the following week against Collingwood. Liam Stocker apparently is available to play this weekend. Jordan Boyd won't be available for the rest of the home and away season. George Hewitt also expected to miss the remainder of the home and away season. He's got some serious back issues, George Hewitt, unfortunately, and we're really missing him. He's been one of our best midfielders all year. David Cunningham, well, he hasn't played for a year and a half.
He's done.
I dare say he's done. Zach Williams, he's the only other one that's a chance to be available for the Collingwood game. But as I said, missing that much football, to not put him in the VFL first to see how he goes, I think would be almost irresponsible. But who knows? They might just throw caution to the wind and say, what do we got to lose? Throw him in there. But I think it all depends on who's available and who's not. I wouldn't be rushing Zach Williams in myself.
No, I wouldn't. But Vince, before...
the only other ones, by the way, to talk about are Ed Curnow, running program at the moment, still continuing to build up his loads, but really, I think he's done. I think he'll probably retire next week.
He's done.
Matthew Kennedy suffered a head knock against Adelaide. He did enter concussion protocols as a result. He also experienced a fractured jaw in that collision, and at this stage is expected to return in the last round against Collingwood. If they rushed him back this week, that'd be another risk on a broken jaw, that's for sure. Nick Newman's another one, expected to be unavailable for the remainder of the home and away season because of that gash that opened up, that wound that opened up in his knee. So he won't be available this week. And Luke Parks is another one gone for the season. So we've got quite a few injuries, but I'd say there's only really, when you look at it, genuine top 22, or best 22 players. You'd have to say it's limited to George Hewitt, Matthew Kennedy, Nick Newman, and maybe Liam Stocker, maybe. They're the only four. And Zach Williams. So there's five potentially that could if they were fit, come back into the team. The others, I don't think would be put in.
I think Mark Pitnet has to play this week. We've got Max Gawn, the best ruckman.
Well, Max Gawn and Luke Jackson.
Yeah, so we've actually got to get someone in there.
Yes, I agree. Pitnet's got to come back.
Can I mention? I want to mention something about Setterfield, right? Do you know what Setterfield looks like? One of these racehorses that you pay millions and millions and millions of dollars for. He looks good prancing around the field, and then you get him in the race, and he comes stone motherless last. Oh, sorry, that guy to me has got no heart. And he you know how years ago they used to say Caruso was Italian for turnover? Well, Setterfield is English. Setterfield is English for turnover. He's streaming into open goal and decides to do this shocking pass that is over someone's head.
It's his confidence.
No, that's skill.
It is. I agree with Rash. This is more mental than it is physical.
He's not confident. He's not being. I'm telling you, we are not great at developing players. Seriously.
That's another point. Everyone says, "Oh, we do this, we do that." We got to go to the draft. We go to the draft and we get players. We don't develop them. We get good players and we ruin them.
So what happened to Lewis Young? Great.
Well, Lewis Young's gone back to his bad old ways at the Western Bulldogs in the last couple of weeks.
Shaky, mate. Shaky.
Don't you reckon, Beachy? He's lost all confidence in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, look, I'm not disputing it, but here's the thing. It's when he was in the first 10 weeks, he was taking everything. Disposal efficiency was high. There were multiple weeks where it was 100% disposal efficiency. But then, in the last couple of weeks, instead of actually going back and taking the marks, what's he been doing? He's looking at the ball, and then doing the double fist, like he's supposed to be trying to be Clark Kent,
Superman.
Yep.
Yeah.
Peter's put up in Pitnet's Stocker Durden. I'm assuming that's the small Durden, not the defender Durden, and Fogarty out. Nunes should be shown the door and never come back. Cripps, Owie, Setterfield. I'd keep TDK along with Sauce, and then Brandon saying we have no youth or midfield depth. Well, according to the club, we do have youth and midfield depth. I don't know who, but anyway, go ahead, Rash.
No, I was going to say you need a big game from Cherry this week. I mean, this has got to be his game of the.
Well, he hasn't done much, really, has he?
He did okay the first couple of weeks. I mean, he looked good. But I want to make a special mention. I think Marchbank played pretty good last week. I think it was good to see Marchbank in. And
he survived. He survived. He didn't have any injuries this time as a result. Last time he played one game and did his knee again.
So, and I think they should have put in Brody Kemp. I think he's like, the problem is they're not putting the players in when they're in form. Brody Kemp in form in the reserves.
Is he? I don't know. Beachy?
Well, he has been. He's been in the reserves. You're right.
Yeah, he's been.
You're a VFL expert.
In fact, Brandon actually asked the question, how's Kemp travelling, the forgotten man? Yeah, look, he's been playing in the reserves. They've been throwing him down back. They've been throwing him up forwards. Yeah, he's got some he's kicked some goals when they've sent him up forwards. But they've also managed to stick him down back to stop the attack. But like I said earlier, guys, there's only 2 VFL games left, and they're both against the reserves of the AFL competition. Starting this week, KC Demons on a Sunday afternoon out at KC Fields. If any of you are close to that area, get down and have a watch, because it might get interesting. They're actually the undefeated side of the competition. They've not lost a game this season.
Are they like the Melbourne Reserves, the KC Demons?
Yes, they are. They were originally the Springvale Scorpions. Then they went to the KC Scorpions. Then the Demons came in for the Alliance.
Here's an interesting question. When they drafted Kemp, what position was it for? My understanding was that he was a back. Yeah, my understanding was that he was a back.
Half back.
I heard he was a midfielder.
No, that I know Brody.
No,
Stocker
key
was
position.
a midfielder.
Key position.
Yeah. So I know Stocker was definitely a midfielder because my friend in Melbourne is his godfather, and he said he can't understand why they're playing him out of position. He came. Did he win the Morris Medal or second in the Morris Medal?
He won it. He won it, and he was the captain of the I think Vic Metro. He was the captain of Vic Metro, and he won the medal in the carnival.
Yeah,
and
playing in the guts.
And the best part about this too, he was captain. Right? Let's get that important. He was captain of that side.
Yeah. Well, he might be worth throwing into the middle this week and go. Using the Chris analogy, if Crip is out, hey, you got nothing to lose. You may have found an inside young mid. Oh,
does he have the tank?
Can I just ask quickly? I think the big issue for us this week, apart from probably the ruck, where I think it's a pretty obvious one that Pitnet comes back in. The midfield is now depleted. So out of our best five, out of the Fab Five, and I'm talking about Cripps, Walsh, Hewitt, Chera and Kennedy, there's no Kennedy, there's no Cripps, and there's no Hewitt. So we've only got 2 out of those 5 in the team this week, being Walsh and Chera. Who else do you think should be included into that midfield? Because we're going to have to strengthen it from somewhere and with someone. So who else plays midfield other than just Walsh and Chera?
Fisher.
They can't do it all.
Well, yeah, you're gonna have to rotate. You're probably gonna have to put Fisher and Brandon's right. It blows my mind that Stocker has no tank. He's been at the club 2-3 years now.
But they've only been playing him in the back line, Joe. I'm just not sure whether he's got the engine to be going in the midfield just yet.
Well, maybe run him off the bench rather than bloody sending players off after they kick a goal.
Bit late in the season to be all of a sudden asking him to play midfield when all they've done is play him in defence for the last 2 or 3 years.
What about Hayes?
So who are you going to play?
I was just going to say, Rash, I'm glad you raised that. No one's mentioned Hayes. Hayes was suspended for 2 weeks. He was a real go. He came into the side for a couple of weeks. I think he played against West Coast in his first game. It was like 5 minutes. It was an emergency, and he came in for someone who was a late withdrawal, and he played quite well. And then he played against Geelong and got suspended, and that was for 2 weeks. And then they didn't bring him straight in. They made him an emergency against Adelaide, and I think he's probably the obvious choice to bring in to play midfield this week.
I agree.
Well, here's something from Brandon. Something for us to consider. Hayes on the right, Will Setterfield inside mid, Silvani defensive mid on Oliver. Be interesting to see whether they tag Oliver or Petrarca. Because they are both guns.
There's another option too, and that is our small forwards in Durden and Owies and Motlop may be thrown into the middle just for limited minutes at a time to just be.
You can't throw
him alive.
No. I'm just saying that these are options. These are options, right?
I'd rather
throw them in there.
Motlop.
Yeah, same.
Who?
But not Stocker before Motlop.
Motlop sure. And they might even play Nunes, and they might play Lockie O'Brien, and they might still retain Paddy Dow. Who knows?
God help us.
I thought Paddy Dow's game was pretty lousy last week. I reckon he'd be very lucky to keep his spot on the side, and if he does, it's purely because we've run out of soldiers.
I'd definitely put Hayes in. I like that kid. I
just don't know how we're going to match it with the Melbourne midfield, Joe. I'm really worried about that.
That's
Petrarca and Oliver and Viney and Brayshaw and all of those guys in the Melbourne midfield. It's going to be really tough.
I can tell you this right now. You are not the only one in that department.
Mm.
I'm about as worried as you are, and I've seen a stick try to swim up right down a river. It's not going to end well.
Yeah.
So, the only positive I think is I don't know whether their forwards. Well, if ours were on song, if their forward line is as potent as ours, they've only really got Bailey Fritsch.
Oh, look, I don't think their forward line's in good form at all because they've been struggling even in their premiership year.
Yeah.
It only sort of came together towards the end at the right time where Ben Brown started to kick goals, and Tom McDonald, of course, is the key in that forward line for Melbourne, and he's not playing. He's still a few weeks away. So I don't think their forward lines, their key position forwards have certainly not been settled. They play Wiedemann sometimes and then they drop him. They bring in sometimes that Mitch Brown, the ex-Essendon player, number 38, and then they drop him. And then Ben Brown's back in. So they're all over the shop with their forward line. And you're right, Bailey Fritsch is a really key player.
He's
and
the
Neil
most
Bourne.
dangerous player.
But they're more your coming forwards, though, Beachy. I'm talking about key position. We've got it all over them with Harry and Charlie when they're in form and when they're actually getting the ball and kicking goals. That's the one area we could potentially dominate against them, is taking contested marks in the forward 50. I don't think their key forwards do anywhere near as much as ours in that area.
Brendan, I'd like you to pinch yourself and wake up. Imagine if somehow, some way, we won this week. I think it's one for the ages. One for the ages. It'll be a miracle.
Everything's possible. Carlton beat Essendon in '99. No one gave us a chance in the preview.
That one. That one where there was Bradley out.
No, Bradley played. What are you talking about?
No,
99 preliminary final?
No. Do you remember the game against Essendon? It was ages ago where we had a whole lot of players out.
Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about, Rash. Are you talking about 2001?
I think it might have been where just Camporelli had this outstanding game. We had so many players out and we beat Essendon.
Yeah, we didn't. I don't think we had Bradley. We didn't have Koutafidis. We didn't have Rutten, and we still managed to beat them.
Correct. That's the game.
Yeah, 2001. I remember that.
Well, that's only because Koutafidis and Bradley did bad injuries right at the tail end of 2000. Anyway, let's not waste time on that.
It's 2001. There you go.
Peter Vlahos, 2001. He's our brains trust. Peter Vlahos. He knows everything about our history, which is great.
Can I just say, do you think that will, if it's a loss margin, do you think it'll be over 10 goals?
Yes.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think Melbourne's forward line's potent enough, but I do think that they could easily beat us by minimum 4. Minimum 4. Somewhere between 4 and 8 is what I'm expecting.
Their midfield contribute to the goals.
Somewhere between 4 and 8. If I've got to throw a dart, I'd say, 36 points. Yeah.
If I was Melbourne, I'd rest players. But anyway.
No way will they rest players. They are fighting for a top 4 position. This is the thing we've got to understand, is that
they'll beat us.
They are fighting to stay in the top 4 after having won their first 10. In fact, these two teams are very, very similar, Rash. You've got Carlton, surprising everyone by winning 8 out of our first 10 games. Melbourne won every single one of their first 10 games. What people didn't realise then, that they realise now, is that all 10 of those teams were positioned, are right now as we stand, between 8th and 18th on the ladder. Wow. So they didn't beat anybody at all in the top 7. And it's only since they started playing those teams that they started losing. And they have actually lost 6 out of their last 10, and so has Carlton. So these two teams are both going in on Saturday night with wobbly wheels, and it's going to be a case of whose wagon wheels are the wobbliest, because, and obviously I think with the injuries and suspensions that we're incurring, we're the ones that are probably looking more shaky than they are at the moment.
Good point.
Guys, can I just wrap this up? So we're saying, let's assume Patrick Cripps is out.
Yeah.
All right. Who are we going to bring in for Cripps?
Well, I think it's Hayes.
I'd say it's Hayes or Stocker. One of the two.
I think Stocker will get in anyway.
Well, I think Hayes has got the form. Stocker had a concussion 2 weeks ago, had to rest last week. So, yeah, potentially him. But I just don't know that they're going to play Stocker in the midfield at this late stage of the season. I could be wrong, but I just don't see how that's going to work.
Who do we drop for Pitnet? Do we need him?
Well, I reckon they're going to drop Silvani. I wouldn't personally drop Silvani, because I think he's required in the half forward line. But I think that Michael Voss has shown his cards with Silvani. I don't think he
He might
sees
be
that there's a spot for him when both
might be the medical
Pitnet and
sub.
De Koning are both in the side. So unless they rest De Koning and say, righto, Silvani, you can keep playing as a backup ruckman and across the half-forward line, I think that they may very well drop him again, unless they decide to give De Koning a well-earned rest, which I think he looks like he needs, because the last 2 weeks, De Koning has been largely ineffectual. He looks like a player who needs a rest. Lana. Hello, Lana. She loves her J Sauce, that's for sure.
I like the comment from Jacob where he says Sauce should be half back. I mean, he should be like a plowman.
Again, Rash, I don't know that, doing this right at the tail end of a season when they haven't even trained for that, or I'd be, if you're going to make a decision like that, you make it in the off season where you'd say, righto, we're going to change the game plan, or we're going to change the roles for various players, and that's the time to do that, not at round 21.
I know. I didn't mean like now, but I think for the future.
Peter Vlahos, all three, TDK, Pito, and Sauce, have played in the 4 games when we won. You're talking about the 4 games in the last 10 weeks, Peter, I assume? You might be right. You might be right.
No, it has to be earlier because Pito's
What do you mean all 4 games when we won?
Well, maybe when the 4 of them have been in the team together.
Oh, right, because, of course, Pitnet hasn't played all that many, has he, before he got injured? Yeah, I hear that. And that's why I say I wouldn't drop Silvani. I'm just trying to anticipate what Voss might do. That's all. The first 4 games. Yeah, fair enough. What about? Can I throw some other names at you? We've mentioned that injury list, Beachy, but and that includes the potential of bringing back players like Honey or Stocker, who was essentially coming back from concussion. But there are other players that have been playing VFL, and they're also potential ins. And I talk about Lockie Fogarty. He's another potential in. Jack Carroll's played some senior football this year.
Yes.
We mentioned Kemp. I'm just throwing names up, Joe. I'm just throwing names up to give you something to think about. We've mentioned Kemp. Then you've got, of course, Lockie Plowman potentially comes back in. We mentioned that Pitnet should come back. Then you've also got Sam Durden, is another key position backman who played that 1 game against Richmond and did his hamstring. He's back playing VFL again. And then, of course, as I said, Will Hayes. So there's some other potential ins that they might be tempted to go for there.
But can we just say, Fogarty, I don't know if you all agree, he'll get delisted at the end of the year.
Possibly.
No,
but he's in good form at the moment. He's been in good form. I think Beachy could probably confirm this. He's been in pretty good form in the VFL. They didn't play last week, but the previous couple of weeks, Fogarty was in our best 2 or 3 players. Is that right?
We always got ripped off from Geelong. Always get ripped off from Geelong.
I can't say that for sure, Rash. I can't exactly say that for sure. I mean, Adelaide game, we missed 23 tackles. The week we played Williamstown in the 2s, Lockie Fogarty laid 8 tackles.
Wow. All right.
We played Brisbane the following week. Where was Fogarty then?
Put it this way, Rash. If there's one thing that I have so far admired up until a couple of weeks ago about Michael Voss and his selection committee is that they have honoured, if you like, players who have played very well in the VFL for at least a couple of weeks with a call-up into the seniors. And if a player has been in bad form in the seniors, they've dropped him. Now, I think Fogarty has done enough to get a recall. He's had 1 or 2 medical sub situations this year, but don't be surprised if he gets a recall this week.
Okay.
And the other thing is, what I was going to ask, after such a poor performance last week, who do you think might get dropped?
Nunes.
Nunes? Do you reckon Nunes will get dropped? No, Cottrell won't get dropped, Joe.
No.
Why?
I can't see Cottrell getting dropped. No, he's got too many good games. He's got too many credits in the bank.
I think he needs a rest.
No,
they won't rest him.
He's got to look. The one thing about Cottrell, he'll run all day for you. He's got a huge engine, And he's actually improved his kicking efficiency this year. I think he's actually improved this year. He's one of the players that's actually taken at least a couple of steps forward.
What about Lockie O'Brien?
Right. He's one of the best kicks for goal.
Lockie O'Brien played his role last week. I thought he did pretty well, to be honest.
No,
and the one thing about him is he's got to keep his width because he's playing the wing. And too many other players get sucked into the contest. He at least holds his position and keeps his width and actually delivers the ball on that left foot. I think Lockie O'Brien did his job last week. I wouldn't even think he'd come into discussions about whether he should be dropped.
I reckon whoever gets dropped this week, if it's Setterfield or Dow, it's over for him.
To me, it's got to be Setterfield, Dow, and the other one. What's his name? Nunes. Those three are the ones I think that are the most likely to get dropped.
No, Nunes.
I think they'll all get dropped.
Well, we're all entitled to our opinions, aren't we? I mean, we're in the opinion business here. We don't have any confirmed team to talk about, so we can only speculate. But last week,
that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to do. That's right.
I understand that. So okay.
We all agree that Pito's got to come in, to face Fulham.
Yeah.
Okay. What
about predictions? I think we're probably getting to that stage at an hour and 6 minutes that we should be predicting a few results here.
Melbourne,
what do you reckon?
10 goals.
Melbourne 10 goals for you.
Yep.
You normally pick Carlton, doesn't matter how bad things are going. So that we must be going real bad for you to tip the opposition by 10 goals.
Maybe it'll work in reverse, and I hope that we win by a point. But I can't see it. I can't see it.
Yeah,
I really can't. 10 goals is a bit much, but I honestly, we will lose by 5 goals or more. You know why? Because we'll be slow out of the blocks as usual, and the other team will get 10 goals up, and then they'll put the queue in the rack, and then all of a sudden we'll miraculously kick 8 goals, and we'll be 15 points down, and then the other team will go, oh, hang on a minute, bang, bang, bang. How many times has that happened this year where we've given clubs 5-goal starts? I agree with Jacob. Motlop in the ruck, problem solved.
He would get sandwiched.
He gets stepped on, more likely.
Right. What do you think, Vince?
Well, I told you already. I think Melbourne by 6 goals.
Beachy?
I had to say it, and I've usually been the one that back Carlton all the way, but I just can't see it at the moment.
And we're assuming, of course, that Cripps is going to be suspended and that appeal's not going to be overturned.
Even if Patrick Cripps does play, we won't win.
Even if he plays, we won't win. Okay.
Well,
what about you, Rash? What did you say, Rash? Melbourne or?
No, I was going to say like Joe, 10 goals, but more realistically, I think it'll be like 5 to 6 goals.
I'll tell you one thing. Their midfield is going to not only have to dominate our midfield, but they're also going to have to kick quite a few goals. And they also tend to get goals. They also tend to get goals from their wingers, like Ed Langdon and guys like that.
Yeah, we don't.
Well, occasionally we'll get 1 or 2 from Cottrell, but they get goals from their high half forwards, their small forwards like Cozzy Pickett and Neil Bullen and young Spargo and Sparrow and players like this. They all contribute, and that's the key to them, because their tall key position forwards don't always get enough of it and don't always kick bags of goals. They're going to need Ben Brown to kick at least 3. But, I think our midfield's going to struggle. I think they're going to give it a red hot crack, because Sam Walsh knows no other speed than flat out. But unless Chera, I mean, really, if there was ever a time that you needed a recruit like Chera to step up and finally show us what he's made of, it's a game like Saturday night. Jack Martin's not. No, he hasn't got the engine.
This week?
What's that?
Sam Walsh.
It'll either be Walsh or Wiedering. So
I think it'll
one
be
one of them will be doing the toss.
Yeah, I think it'll be Wieders.
Yeah.
Does it really matter?
Before we leave,
Yep.
You were MC at an event the other night.
Last Thursday night? Yes, I did.
What was it? The Peter Bosustow roast?
Correct. Yeah, that was a fabulous function at the Arrow on Swanston in Carlton, and Peter Bosustow and his wife Shelley and his daughter Brooke and son Brent were there, and we celebrated. We raised a lot of money for them, and also had a lot of players that he played with get up on stage and roast him.
Yes.
We also had a couple of people who were involved with the recruiting of Peter Bosustow to Carlton who spoke on the night as well. People like Brian McMahon and Shane O'Sullivan, as well as his captain Mike Fitzpatrick and players like Mark McClure, Jimmy Buckley and Wayne Johnston all got up on stage. We had Peter McCombell there and Kenny Sheldon as well. Unfortunately, a couple of people couldn't make it on the night due to some health issues. But overall, it was a fantastic function. We even had some notable celebrities in the room, like actor Vince Colosimo and
saw that.
Tony Hasham, whose brother Joe was that poker player who won it big over there in Las Vegas a few years ago.
Yep.
And Tony's a big Carlton supporter, his brother, and I think he organised the table and a few other influential Carlton supporters in the room as well. So, we raised quite a lot of money and had a lot of fun. And I think everyone went away feeling pretty good about what we did for the Bosustow family.
I think that was a big thanks to
thanks to Goz.
Yeah,
Goz was the one who made it happen. It was his brainchild. It was his idea to do this, and I think he's learned a lot about what it takes to run an event. You'd have to ask him whether he'd do it ever again, but
don't know.
I can assure you that he put his heart and soul into it, and full credit to him. He asked me to be the MC for the night, and I guess I gave him a few tips on a few things that I thought he should do, and he took that advice to his credit, and it turned out very well. So, yeah,
I heard you did a sterling job.
Thank you, sir. I did the auctions as well, and I even had my friend Sean Cosgrove, who I had dinner with the previous week. He came along with his son Charlie, so it was good to have Sean Cosgrove there. No, he's not, but he's not. But he's known Bosustow over the years for various reasons, and so he wanted to come along and support it as well. And that's just the nature of Sean Cosgrove and how good a person he is. If anyone out there is wondering who I'm talking about, Sean was the guy on. He's been in Melbourne radio for probably 40 odd years in Melbourne radio, but he was the voiceover man on The Price is Right. Come on down, Joe Luzza. You're the new contestant on The Price is Right. So that was Sean when he did it with Larry Emder back in the day with I think he did that on Channel 9.
I got drunk with Larry Emder one night.
Yeah,
that's my claim to fame.
Nice guy, Larry Emder, isn't he?
Yeah, I got drunk with him. He's got a tattoo on his bum.
Good on you, Joe.
Tattoo on his bum.
Joe, is anything sacred with you?
He tells everyone about it.
Oh, does he? Okay.
He got it when he was really young. He said he was really drunk and he got it. He regrets it. And he says, well, that's just one of my stupidity.
Well, hopefully these days, the only person who would see that would be his wife. So,
or his boyfriend.
Oh.
I
think we've had enough now, have we? It's time to say goodnight.
Chris is not falling asleep. He's just drunk on solo.
Listen, don't you knock Robin down there in the back cave. Don't worry, Robin. I'll be back down there very soon.
In the
we'll go for a drive in the Batmobile, you and I.
There you go. You're down there now.
We're Batman and Robin, Rabici and I.
In the leafy suburb of Kew.
That's right.
Not that leafy at the moment.
Anyway, it's great to have Rash on the show tonight, don't you think?
Yeah, so we're going to sign off. But first of all, thank you, Rash, for joining us from Dubai.
Yep. Always a pleasure.
You're always welcome. Thank you. Come on down, Vince Lotcher. Thank you for joining us, Vince.
I'll be at the big function tomorrow, the Spirit of Carlton function, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the 1972 Premiership, the highest scoring grand final in history. and the highest winning score, obviously, in history. And also the 40th anniversary of the 81 and 82 back-to-back premierships. So there's going to be a whole host of Carlton past greats there. And, yeah, I've been asked to do the auction there tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that.
And to be honest, we should have won the 1980 grand final too, but that's a story for another day.
Well, who knows? If we had won that, we may not have gotten Parkin over for 81 and 82. So you just, you don't know how this might have panned out.
I'll have to tell you about...
we'll never know, will we? We'll just never know.
Just on that, I was good friends with Vin Catoggio. He knew my sister who's passed away.
Nice guy, Vinny.
And Vinny was telling us there was one day he remembers that it was 3/4 time. The players, they were not playing that well. Vin said that basically the players coached themselves. And this day...
In 1980, you mean, when Percy was the coach? Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently this one day Percy called everyone in and they were all shocked, thinking, Jesus Christ, what's he going to do? What's he going to say? And apparently his big motivational speech was, come on, fellas, you can do better than that. And then he just walked off. They all just looked at each other and laughed. Anyway,
that was the rousing 3/4 time speech, was it?
Yeah, that was a speech. Don't forget, you can catch Vince with Steve.
Yes.
I'm going to call Steve the smiling assassin because he never smiles. But anyway, you can catch them on Sunday night. I've got a nickname for everybody. You can catch them on Sunday night, Vince, this week.
Sunday night at 8 o'clock. We'll be reviewing the second last round of the season, including the Carlton Melbourne game. Yeah,
don't forget all our other ones. The Jumper Punch. I think they've got an interview with Ricky Nixon this week. That'll be an interesting one.
Yes, so, we actually went out there this morning and taped that interview. So for those of you who are watching right now, you've got the scoop there. Yes, the number 48. He only played 4 games in the number 48 for Carlton. They were the only 4 games he played in the seniors, but there's really no other 48s that are of any note to speak of. So. So I organised Ricky Nixon for them, and both Paul and Rocco had an interview with him this morning.
No, that's good.
Well done, mate.
So don't forget
Thanks,
Jumper
Chris.
Punch. We look at all the other channels. You got Goz and Firma, I think it is.
They won't be doing their show tomorrow. They've decided to postpone until the following Thursday, the 18th, I think it is.
But so there's a lot of things out there. So on behalf of me, it's good night, Chris.
And it's a good night from me.
Rash.
Good afternoon.
Oh, sorry. Oh, it's afternoon. And Vince.
It's good night and good afternoon from all of them.
Okay. So, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see everyone next week.
Righto. Good night. Go Blues.
Good night, guys. Go Blues.